Shabbat Shalom, everyone. My name's Daniel, and I'm the Vegan Nazarite. Well, folks, today we got the weekly Sabbath Bible teaching, roughing it version. I'm at the cabin with my wife, and we're spending a Sabbath day, well, enjoying a wet and rainy time at the lake. But tomorrow's going to be a different day. So um, today I'm going to be doing the part 4 of the 4 commands in Acts 15, blood and strangulation. So last few weeks, I've been doing a little bit of a series on the 4 commands that James shares with all the brothers in Acts 15. Now, many Christians say that basically that's the only commands we need to do now, and some Christians say the opposite, that we don't need to do any of the Torah. Uh, but when we actually read with open eyes and with open ears, we find out that what James is actually talking about is not abandoning the Torah, but rather quite on the opposite. So last week, I discussed fornication and why James uses fornication as kind of a catch-all. We learned that many there are many commands against sexual uh, sins in the Torah, and that uh, all of them are pretty much geared for sexual sins outside of wedlock. Uh, so, uh, what we did do is, uh, as James recommends, to go to the synagogue every Sabbath day and learn the law of Moses. Uh, what I've been doing in the last few weeks on this series is basically exactly that. I went deep in the Torah to find out exactly why James chooses these four recommendations, we could say, for new believers who start on the path of following Yeshua. Um, so again, we see that looking at the New Testament writings with the lens of the Torah, and we all know what the lens of the Torah is. A prophet is not allowed to add or remove from the law of Moses, nor is he allowed to teach anything else but the law of Moses, because true prophets and true teachers know that the law of Moses is a sealed canon and that no man may add or remove from it. The commands were all done, and God teaches us that we are not to take any of the commands away nor add any new commands in the Torah itself. So that's basically the lens of the Torah. We have to look and know that prophets and teachers are not allowed to add or remove any commandments from the law of Moses. Um, so let's keep sharpening our proverbial spears and swords, which is the Word of God. So we're going to add another WMC. And these are all the curses in Deuteronomy 13 to 26. In these verses, Father teaches us that serving idolatry, sexual sins are cursed things, and we should stay away from those practices, just like James teaches us in Acts 15:20. And I'm going to read it again, Acts 15:19 to 20. Wherefore, and this is James, which is known to be the brother of Yeshua himself, uh, here speaking in the book of Acts. Uh, Wherefore, my sentence is that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to God. But we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols, and from fornication, and from things strangled, and from blood. For Moses of all time hath in every city them to preach him, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath day. So, uh, just like James is recommending the new believers to spend time in the synagogue, uh, that is basically my goal, is to teach on the Sabbath days and go deep in the Torah and teach like a true teacher without adding or removing from the law. And this week, I'm going to spend some time on going through the last recommendation from James, which is to abstain from things strangled and from blood. Uh, and we're going to look deep in the Torah and find out exactly why James tells the new believers in Jerusalem that are starting to follow Yeshua and are also coming to the Most High, why James is telling us to abstain from blood and from things strangled with the blood in it. So James is not reinventing the anything new here. He's literally quoting the Torah here. And we can start James' third and fourth recommendations is basically not to consume animals strangled with their blood and drinking the blood itself. And we find these two commands in the Torah at Genesis 9:4, and this reads like this: "But the flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, you shall not eat." So, and respectively at Deuteronomy 15:23, "Only thou shalt not eat the blood thereof, thou shalt pour it on the ground as water." So those are two commands directly from the law of Moses, folks. And James does have a reason to tell us not to eat flesh of animals with the blood in it. He calls them things strangled. Basically, when an animal is basically strangled to death and not bled properly. And the other one is drinking the blood itself. The Torah commands us not to eat flesh with the blood in it, and also uh, when we are about to eat of animal flesh, um, we have to pour the blood on the ground and cover it with dust. And those are the two basic commands, but there is a whole, there's at least, how can I say that? There's a whole section in Leviticus 17 that says exactly that. And we're going to go a little bit more details onto why these blood and strangulation is to be avoided as followers of Yeshua and as doers of the Torah. Um, so let's start. I'm going to bring you to Leviticus 17, 1 to 7. There's basically, chapter 17 in Leviticus is basically a whole chapter dedicated just to these things. And they relate a lot to the sacrificial offerings, and we'll see why we are not to eat blood or things strangled with the blood in it. Leviticus 17, 1 to 7. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron, and unto his sons, and unto all the children of Israel, and say to them, This is the thing which the Lord hath commanded, saying, Whatsoever What man soever be of the house of Israel that killeth an ox, a lamb, or a goat in the camp, or that killeth out of the camp, and bring it not unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, to offer an offering unto the Lord before the tabernacle of the Lord, blood shall be imputed to that man. He hath shed blood, and that man shall be cut off from among his people. To the end that the children of Israel may bring their sacrifices, which they offer in the open field, even that they may bring them unto the Lord, unto the door of the tabernacle, in the congregation, unto the priest, and offer them for peace offerings unto the Lord. And the priest shall sprinkle the blood on the altar of the Lord at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and burn the fat for a sweet savor unto the Lord. And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring. This shall be a statute forever unto them throughout their generations. So, in the days of the tabernacle, an Israelite had to bring any sacrificial offering to the temple, so that the sacrifice be pleasing to Yah himself. The priest would then remove the fat and burn it as an offering. We can read that in verse 4. Those who do not bring the offering to the priest are to be cut off from Israel. The Levites had the responsibility to remove the fat, make sure that no blood remained in the carcass. Any deviation from that is a sacrifice to devils, as per verse 7. So, God, folks, is very precise in his commands, and we are to do exactly as he commands and not add or remove from it. We read a little later that this is to be a forever statute. Well, folks, when God says forever, it's forever. And that's read. And that is in verse 7. We read later in the verse that this is forever statutes. So when I read these verses, I personally get that the Father considers all life important, even the life of the animals. If the animal was not set at the door of the tabernacle, then the person that had killed it was one that had considered to be shed blood and cut off from Israel. The judgment differs only from murderers in that the murderer was also condemned to death as he committed to the innocent victim. So there we have it, folks. We read that the Levite has to remove the blood and the fat from the sacrificial offering. And we'll read a little bit later, we'll find out why exactly that is so important. And let's keep on reading Leviticus 17, this time verses 8 and 9. And thou shalt say unto them, whenever a man to be of the house of Israel, of the strangers, or of the strangers who sojourn among you, that offered a burnt sacrifice, and bring it not unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, to offer it to the Lord, even that man shall be cut off from his people. So here we see no distinction between the stranger who lives among the children of Israel or an Israelite, him or herself. And again, we read the same conditions. The animal has to be brought to the door of the tabernacle for the removal of the blood, if it's not been removed already, and also for the removal of the fat. Let's continue to Leviticus 17, 10 to 14. And whatsoever a man be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, that eateth any manner of blood, I will set my face against that soul that eateth blood, and will cut him off from among his people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that maketh the atonement for the soul. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, no soul of you shall eat blood, neither shall any stranger that sojourneth among you eat blood. And whatsoever man there be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, which hunteth and catcheth any beast or fowl that may be eaten, he shall even pour out the blood thereof, cover it with dust, for it is the life of all flesh, the blood it is the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, You shall not eat, you shall eat the blood, no manner of flesh, for the life of all flesh is the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth shall be cut off. So here we have a very detailed paragraph on why it's important that we do not consume the blood. First of all, the blood is the actual part of the animal that is made to do an atonement for the sin offering. Um, and secondly, the blood, God considers the blood is the life force, we could say, of the animal itself. So when you're actually consuming blood, in God's perspective, you are trying to consume a uh, life itself. And who is the one that giveth all life? Well, we know it's Yah. Yahweh basically, at the time of creation, uh, put the breath of life into Adam and Eve, and that is how they became. Um, so, a few key things in those verses. Uh, in these verses, we see that any beast or fowl may be eaten, and we gotta go back here to Leviticus 11. Uh, that part of the Torah does specify uh, that of the animals that may be eaten. So these are clean animals, ladies and gentlemen, the ones that are detailed in Leviticus 11. Uh, it would be very blasphemous to basically offer an animal uh, that is unclean to God. So we're talking about ox, goats, sheep, gazelles, or any of the clean animals that are mentioned in Leviticus 11. So, and even the hunter who hunts an animal for consumption, the first thing he has to do is basically spill the blood on the ground. So, hunters do this to this day, where basically the animal is hung, usually upside down, and we can use a very sharp knife, and usually they cut one of the major arteries or veins in the neck, and that basically uh, bleeds the whole animal. We hear in the Torah that we are also have to cover it with dust. So there we have it, folks. These are the main reasons why we are not to eat blood. Uh, God reserves the blood himself to make an atonement for the sin, and secondly, because God considers that the blood has the life itself. So it is to be spilt on the ground and covered with dust. Uh, and there is no doubt here. The Torah plainly says that anyone who consumes blood will be cut off from Israel. In other words, uh, if you are hoping to make it to the day Yeshua returns and God reestablishes justice in the world and reestablishes the 12 tribes of Israel on top of the leadership of the world, well, by all accounts we can read here that if you do consume blood or blood products, we're talking here any of the products that are derived or made from blood. Thinking blood pudding here. My first job was a butcher, so and you know what? As a Catholic, we ate lots of blood pudding, and but that's before I knew that God commands us not to eat any blood, and makes me wonder how a church and their priests allow this kind of behavior from their constituents when the Torah or God's laws, statutes, and ordinances uh, plainly, very plainly say that we are to abstain from these things. Um, and again, I find here that being a vegan in principle, and I do say in principle because I do cheat once in a while, usually with dairy products. It's been a long time since I've eaten any flesh whatsoever. But as a vegan, uh, it's very easy to follow these laws, especially the dietary restrictions. Um, I don't eat anything unclean because most of the meats that are sacrificed to idols uh, are flesh per se, not 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 beans and lentils and any of that stuff. And also by abstaining from flesh itself, well, of course, I'm not going to ever drink or come in contact with either uh, flesh that was sacrificed to an idol or uh, blood or fat itself. Um, that's one of the good things about being a vegan follower of Yeshua. And I'm just iterating uh, specific advantage of staying away from the flesh of animals. Of course, I'm not going against the Torah. If you eat of an animal that's been bled properly, and it is any of the clean animals in Leviticus 11, you are not sinning because you are following the Torah. I did a Bible study quite a long time. You know what? One of the first, I think it is the first Bible study I ever did, was basically if we should eat halal food. And what was shocking to me in that uh, study was that many of the meat packing companies actually hire a Muslim person to dedicate the animal or the flesh uh, to their god and may or may not label it as halal. So there we have it, folks. In my opinions, I consider that uh, a sacrifice to a strange God. Um, God teaches us that we are to follow the Torah and the Torah alone, and we are not to accept any of the rituals and practices of the nations. So, if a person from a different faith uh, sacrifices an animal and, and, and dedicates it to their God, well, guess what? You may be eating uh, an animal sacrificed to a foreign God other than Yah, Yahweh, or the God of Isaac, Jacob, and Abraham, uh, because this company uh, wants to label their things halal to sell off to uh, some of the other faiths. Yet, by doing so, they also turn the animal into a sacrifice to a different deity. So, anyhow, just a little advice we could say on by abstaining from flesh. All these laws in the Torah are basically uh, honored by default. Okay, let's continue. I'm going to bring you to Leviticus 15 to 16. And every soul that eateth that which died of itself, or that which was torn with beasts, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger, he shall both wash his clothes, bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. He shall be clean. But if he wash him not, nor bathe his flesh, then he shall bear his iniquity. So, if uh, perhaps an Israelite is stuck somewhere, or he's he's in danger of starvation or something, and that Israelite decides to eat of an animal that died of itself, and I would say that by default, that animal basically maybe it died of disease or something, but it doesn't give you a permission to eat the blood or the fat. It just says that that animal, instead of being offered as a sacrifice to Yah or killed for consumption, uh, is the, the beast is found dead of itself, then that person is unclean. He is to go through the mikvah or wash his clothes in a lake, river, or stream, and then he is clean uh, after uh, the sun has set. Um, so, reading all these things in the Torah actually made me wonder: is there, other than some of the accepted foods out there, like blood pudding and whatever other blood related foods there are out there, is there actually people out there that actually do this, that actually consume uh, human or animal blood? And lo and behold, I was very surprised to find out that there actually is uh, many people that actually do this practice. Uh, According to the BBC, there are thousands of people who drink uh, blood in the U.S. alone. Uh, so, other than the prohibitions in the Torah, uh, I would say that most medical professionals would agree that consuming raw blood can expose a person to serious risks of, of contracting any type of bloodborne disease, such as AIDS and hepatitis. Uh, Not only is the blood reserved for God Himself, but it probably is a good reason uh, medically to abstain from blood in the first place. Uh, so, that said, I don't consume animal flesh on a regular basis, and I do cheat on my veganism, mostly with dairy products. Uh, But when I do make sure I know what I eat, and I make sure it's one of the animals prescribed in Leviticus 11. So no pork for me, no uh, shellfish, and all of the like. So Father's laws, statutes, and ordinances are there for a reason. It's best to follow them as best as we can. And again, that's one of the reasons I'm vegan, is to follow God's laws, statutes, and ordinances. And I find that by excluding meat by default, I do honor the laws of the Torah of not eating anything else but the foods in Leviticus 11 and the other laws of preparation, such as not eating the fat and the blood. You know, folks, we could go to any fast food place here in North America and go to any one of the burger chains and of the any of the fast food restaurants, if we can call them that, and you'll find out that any burger is between 30 to 50% pure fat. So, have you eaten the fat of the lamb or the goat or the ox? And I'll let you answer that by yourself. Um, I just want to take a minute. I'm going to read from an article here from the BBC uh, about people who consume human blood. And this is just a very quick quote. Uh, Vampirism, it seems, comes in many shades. The blood feeding community holds jobs as bar staff, secretaries, and nurses. Some were church going Christians, others atheists. Often they were very altruistic. Vampires aren't always skulking around graveyards, attending goth nightclubs, or feasting at blood orgies, explains one vampire named Nordicus. They are real vampire organizations who feed the homeless, volunteer in animal rescue groups, and who take up any number of social causes. So there are people out there, some of them maybe even professing Christians, who basically are vampires uh, in disguise. Uh, and I'm going back to the article here. I'm quoting. Importantly, while some vampires are looking for psychic energy that gives them strength, others known as medsangs or medical sanguinarians believe that their need for blood is purely physiological. The identity vampire means little to us, says one medical sang known as CJ, uh, exclamation part is part of her online alias, who I met online. However, when they're blood drinkers, especially human blood, the label is impossible to shake. So uh, there we have it, folks. Uh, Here's a very, uh, I would say, reliable news source, the BBC, or if you're not familiar with them, it's the British Broadcasting Service, which is basically the equivalent of the CBC here in Canada, uh, basically doing an article on people who literally drink human blood. Uh, so, just to iterate, God reserved the fat and the blood for himself. So, why would James want to profess to teach these commands and to put them in one of the top four, we could say, of a new follower of Yeshua? Well, it's pretty obvious to me. Uh, some of those sins, consuming blood, uh, will get you cut off from the nation of Israel. So, in other words, no matter how much you love God, no matter how uh, you may love Yeshua, uh, literally these according to the Torah, will get you kicked out of Israel. So, uh, some of these commands that James we teaches to new followers of Yeshua to follow uh, are the equivalent of uh, listening to the words of Yeshua. If we go to Deuteronomy 18, if we do not listen to the words of the Messiah, we are to be cut off from Israel. So I have just read you from the Torah that drinking blood or consuming blood out of an animal that's been strangled will do exactly the same thing as not listening to Yeshua. It will get you literally kicked out of the 12 tribes of Israel. So James is not abolishing the Torah, and nor is he trying to say that these are the only commands that need to be done. James is basically in accordance with the Torah 100%, and sharing some of these sins that God considers the most heinous: idolatry, uh, adultery, and consuming blood, which all of them have very, very specific curses, uh, or will even get you thrown out of the 12 tribes of Israel. Um, so, as usual, folks, don't take it from me. I've shared all the verses that you need to go into the Torah, and basically, we're talking about Leviticus 17, chapter 17. We're looking at Genesis 9:4, um, and also Deuteronomy 15:23. Uh, all the uh, early followers of Yeshua uh, had the Torah as part of their blood. They have been following uh, the law of Moses for probably, I'd say, most of their lives, except for the time when they were early children. We read in Luke that Yeshua, from a very early age, around 10 or so years old, spent time in the synagogue reading the law and the prophets. And even during his ministry, Yeshua's main custom on the Sabbath day was to go and read and study the law and the prophets in the synagogue every Sabbath day. So uh, let that be, let the Messiah be a good example for us. And uh, just this is just coming uh, off of my mind. Uh, Yeshua says that the disciple has to be equal to his master. In other words, uh, Yeshua is basically saying that we have to be as he was. So, just like James recommends in Acts 15, uh, and I'm reading Acts 15:21 here. For Moses of all time hath in every city them that preach him, being read in a synagogue every Sabbath day. So this is what James is urging, excuse me, the new followers of Yeshua to do, to go in the synagogue every Sabbath day and read from the law and the prophets. Um, there we have it, folks. Another edition of um, a Sabbath day teaching. And like usual, don't take it from me. I'm a man. I have not proven myself. The only man you can trust is Yeshua because he passed the test, we could say, and he's sitting at the right hand of the Father, and Father has made him second only to him, a little bit like Joseph in at the end of Genesis, uh, where uh, Joseph is second only to the Pharaoh of Egypt himself. So don't take it from me. Prove all things and judge for yourself. Let the Spirit lead you where it wants you to be. And I apologize for the quality here. Oh, look at that. I got a bunch of comments today to Chris. Uh, Thank you for going through sending some comments. Uh, I'm in a little bit uh, not in my usual office today, but I'm going to share your comments. I find it interesting that many Christians point to Acts to prove that they can ignore the Torah, completely missing that those commands are from the Torah. And the very next verse, Acts 15:21, commands them to spend every Sabbath learning the rest of the Torah. But the worst part is that plenty of Christians should have no problem eating blood pudding or sausage. Um, since you're in Canada, does the dairy come in a bag? Yeah, there we go. Yes, you can buy milk in the 3 bags, basically 4 liters of milk. You can buy at the grocery store in a bag. Thanks for the comment. Some claim that the verses in Acts 15:20 was just there to help the new converts get along with the existing Israelites in the faith. So now it doesn't matter anymore. They have no sources for that. Absolutely, Chris. Well, thank you for the comments. And I'm glad to see that uh, I'm not the only one that can see and hear. Uh, you know what, folks? The Torah has been the way, the truth, and the life ever since it was given to Moses, and we must never deviate from that. The Torah itself teaches us to always stay true to it, and that we shall live by it. So, thank you, Chris, uh, and I hope that you had an entertaining time. Well, not really entertaining. This is a Sabbath day teaching. And I hope I answered all your comments. Absolutely. Uh, James does tell us to go to the synagogue and keep on learning the Torah. And on that note, I want to wish everybody a good Shabbat Shalom and a good rest of the day uh, doing like Yeshua, learning and reading from the law and the prophets. And for God willing, next week I'll be back and with another teaching. I'm not sure. This is the ending of the series on the 4 commands in Acts 15. And next week I will be moving on to a different teaching. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but God willing, I'll be back next week. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Have a good rest of the day and a good week uh, until the next Shabbat.